You are listening to the Business Leadership Podcast with Edwin Frondozo.
Today's guest is rethinking small business lending by rewiring the lending process for the AI era. Fred Zdan is co-founder of Ruby Loans, a platform designed to streamline and modernize the small business loan process through AI-powered borrower interviews and real-time credit risk assessment. With over 30 years of experience in financial services, Fred brings deep industry insight to the challenge of transforming a paper-heavy, labor-intensive system into a seamless borrower-driven digital experience. At a time when SME lending remains one of the most underserved and inefficient segments in the financial services, Fred and his team are building the tools lenders need to scale, while empowering borrowers to take control of the process. Welcome to the show, Fred Zdan. Here you go, Edwin.
Thanks a lot, Paul. Fred, first off, welcome to the Business Leadership Podcast. Welcome to Web Summit Vancouver. Super excited to have you. Just start off, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great today. Thank you very much.
How are you enjoying the show?
It's been, thus far, been terrific.
Oh, amazing, amazing. I guess let's just jump right in.
Sure.
Fred, if you could tell us and share with us more about what Ruby Loans is and specifically what are the problem you're looking to solve within the small business lending and financial services?
Okay. I think I'd rather start with the problems first. Set the stage.
Yeah, no, I love that.
So the industry that, supports small business lending has been through tremendous change over the years, and small business lending or credit granting for small business is one of those areas that hasn't really evolved. And the process that most traditional lenders are engaged in is very labor intensive. It's very documentation heavy. It's very time consuming, very inefficient, and is not a customer friendly experience.
So it sounds like old school still.
It is.
Yeah.
Without trying to offend anyone, it is very much old school.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is also because many of the individuals involved in that process are also aging out.
Right.
And there hasn't been a really strong emphasis on succession planning or changing the way they do business to meet the changing market. Because the market is also changing.
Mm-hmm.
90% of business in Canada are small business.
Right.
And that industry is growing very quickly, and it's a challenge for those business owners or credit seekers to even access small business credit because they may not have a relationship in place with a traditional lender. So that's kind of sets the stage for why the timing is right, we think, for Ruby Loans to change or disrupt the market.
Oh, that's amazing. I guess when it comes to what we're curious and what we're passionate about, Fred, I'd love it if you could just share what your unique point of view is and what do you and the team bring, and specifically you as the leader, to this problem.
Okay. I've spent about 30 plus years in this industry in various capacities. I've been in credit granting. I've been executive responsible for credit granting. I've also spent the last part of my career in consulting services to financial services. And I spent a lot of time in operational effectiveness and efficiency. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the genesis for Ruby Loans actually came from a client discussion about 5 years ago saying,
wow,
there has to be a better way for us to do this. So my point of view is that we have to find a better way for the industry to gather new leads and new opportunities in this segment, but change the way internally that we operate this segment so that we can be more efficient, more effective, be more customer focused, and prepare the industry for what's coming next, including open banking, because that's also a very big piece of what is coming down the pipe.
Yeah, just for the benefit for our audience and even myself and Paul, when you talk about open banking, what does that mean to, let's not just say the industry, but what does it also mean to the small business owners and how will that benefit? And I'm really how different will that create this experience for us? I'm a small business owner, us as well.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where, you know, where all of us need to be thinking. But right now in the traditional space, you have a relationship potentially with a lender or a bank or a credit union or a trust company that you would go to seek credit or your business needs, your financial needs. In the open banking environment, that relationship doesn't necessarily exist because you then have the opportunity to access on a much broader base the services that you need. And so that relationship with your lender or with your bank suddenly starts to diminish and becomes much more competitive for the landscape, for the business, for the lenders themselves.
Oh, wow. So tell me, and then I'll let Paul jump in. So when it comes to Ruby Loans and the solution that you're not only developing but bringing to market, how does that really reflect back to your point of view, your POV, the way you look at the industry?
Okay. So what I didn't talk about was what is Ruby Loans,
Right.
and I really should do that. So what we've done is we've changed the dynamic from being a lender-driven process, whereby if you apply for a loan as a small business owner, I mean, not that different from a personal situation. The lender is driving the process with you to provide them with the information that they need to do that assessment of your credit risk or the strength of your borrowing position.
Yeah.
So what we've designed is, rather than me waiting for a lender to drive the process, myself as a small business owner who's looking to seek credit, I initiate the process. So I go to the Ruby Loans web link and I initiate an inquiry process that generates, with the assistance of AI, a validated, verified inquiry for the lender. The lender receives that, and they know that it's come through this process that has verified it for them. 20 minutes, 20 questions is what we're talking about.
Nice.
That's our tag.
I like that tag.
And the lender then knows that whether or not, immediately if there's enough to go to an application, because the application is the meat of this process. It's where all the information is gathered and evaluated, assessed, put into some format that the lender then uses for a credit approval. So if I generate the inquiry as a borrower, then I go back in with the authorization from the lender to say, Edwin, we know would like you to provide us with all of this information that we need so that we can prepare the application.
Right.
So again, it's back on you as the borrower, which again frees up time and effort of the lender. It engages the borrower in the process, and it eliminates much of the time and effort that the lender is spending. Because if they have more than one of these going on at once, which they would, you can appreciate that it's a very circus-like environment at times.
I can't even imagine.
So Fred, like, why do you care about this? What really drove you to change this process?
You know, I've seen and felt the pain, and I know from talking to clients, even now, and potential clients, they get it. They know they need a solution to change the way they operate. They know that they're facing increased competition. They're struggling to reach the market that is growing, because if they're people younger than me who are looking for credit and running a small business, I don't have the time to go in and spend my time, multiple appointments, phone calls, et cetera, et cetera. So there's an appreciation, I think, that we need to change. And I just find that really invigorating that we could be part of that solution.
And so you've seen it on both sides, like as in seeking the credit or just providing, or?
It's funny you say that, because I have, when I ran my consulting practice, and I won't say who I was dealing with, but we did have to go for an operating loan. And it was a very challenging process to get through. And it was not like we were looking for an exceptional amount of money, but, and if it's funny, I met somebody this morning on the way in, and they asked what I was doing and what we do. And he said, I'm a small business owner, and I just went through a whole very rigorous process for a very simple operating facility, and I don't understand why it has to be that way. So I think there's a lot of validation in the market.
Yeah, and I guess all the time you spent in the industry and seeing it from all angles, so what, I mean, you said you're taking a paper heavy and like cumbersome process, and now that it's super straightforward, easy, 20 minutes, like what does that look like for SMEs? Like what do you think is going to change because of that?
I think having the access to a process that won't be reliant on me having a relationship with an individual or a perspective or a particular lending institution is a big thing. Because if I'm a small business owner and I've got a million things on my plate, I may not get to this till 10 o'clock at night, as an example. I know that I could, with Ruby Loans, I know that I could go in, start my process however it suits me. And I think having that access is really a game changer.
Well, it's really offering this potential of growth and just, ability to take on challenges to these businesses.
Right. And for the lenders as well, because it gives them a new opportunity or a different opportunity to gather new business leads.
And then the whole relationship really changes because that dynamic of the, of the power really is.
Power shift, or is it that I'm now engaged in my own process? Because in the traditional approach, the lender is driving their process. I'm waiting for the lender to get to me to ask me for the plethora of information that they're going to need from. And then they say, oh, and by the way, we need it by now. Yeah. Versus if I'm driving the process, I can say, okay, I will get that to you, or I can have my business resource get that to you. And we've designed this so that it's any format, just get it to us electronically in whatever format it's in, because our engine can read any this.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing all that, Fred. And what we're looking for, and the missions and the visions and the stories, and specifically the future of the founders, when we talk about Future Narrator, we're really curious is, what do you see? What does the future look like when Ruby Loans is there providing the small business owners a very quick loan, operating loan? Like how does what's the impact that it creates?
Let's not say it's a quick loan.
Okay, it's not quick
There's
loans.
still a very thorough process that the lender has to go through.
Sure.
But what the difference is that customer experience really increases.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the customer friendliness of that experience definitely increases. I mean, I think the opportunity for a lender to create a new relationship with a small business because of the pleasantry of that experience is real positive. But I think as well, just the support of a small business, knowing that I have the access to at least start this process without going through the traditional method.
The method
is, I think.
Yeah, and what does that mean to those entrepreneurs? Like, what does their world look like? Is it because, and I'm just talking from my own experience and maybe all of our experiences being consultants, small business owners in the past, does it allow, and I don't want to put, the words in your mouth, but does it allow when in the future, I know as an owner, I'm like, oh, you know what? That check mark is actually easier to do now versus like an overwhelming like mountain to even start.
Well, that's a really great point. And this isn't changing the world of credit risk assessment. Mm-hmm. This is not changing the way that lenders need to evaluate credit risk.
Because that can't change. Yeah.
Well, that's really dependent on a lot of variables.
Right.
Who the lender is, what their requirements are, what their policies are, how they're regulated. I mean, there's a whole underpinning of policy and compliance that they need to maintain.
Right.
But what it does provide, we think, is the access and the ability for the small business lender to seek it much easier.
So you're providing a solution to lenders all over to do this. So you're changing things on both sides, right? And
we are B2B. We are intending to be B2B at this point. So our client at this point is a lender. We don't see providing this necessarily at this point to the open market where B2C, where we could then feed opportunities to a lender. That's not on our radar at this point. We're B2B.
Like a B2B2C type of
Correct.
right?
That's
Okay.
correct.
And then earlier you were just telling me like you guys are really well connected, and you're just waiting to get things to get things out there. And I mean, I'm just thinking, like, so you know that there's something really new you're bringing to the table, and you just want to see it starting to take hold.
My business partner, his name is George Hofsink. He and I both have fairly extensive contacts and connections in the financial service industry in North America. And we've spent a lot of time talking this up and canvassing our connections and potential clients to say, what if? And we did an exercise last fall at a conference that we were both at, and took the time to invite selected contacts of ours who were going to be there to say, could we have 10 minutes of your time and just talk about what we're thinking? And the feedback was tremendous. It was, a number of them said, when can we have this? So, and some nuances on that too, because working within, because of the technology platform, using it internally as a process versus not just being external, helps organizations be more efficient, helps them with their training and succession and all that good stuff. But even working in multi language, can't think of the word, but if I'm working in a segment of the market where I'm not speaking English as my first language, we could translate that, and have it much more accessible or readily available to that unique market and break down some barriers. So that was a really outcome of that side.
Well, you really are providing a lot more access to something that was cumbersome, and it's just with AI, it's offering so many different ways to improve that customer experience. So it's great to see how just all of the industry experience that you bring at this point in time can really reshape how loans are being applied for, and making that experience customer centric.
Fred, just before we wrap up, I'd love it. It might be a two-prong approach, but I'd love it if you could, first off, share any advice or final thoughts for those who are listening. And the context I kind of want to put it is not only as a startup, the importance of you to tell your story at events like Web Summit, and why you felt like coming here was really important for you and your platform.
I think one of the things I've been really focused on is making sure I knew what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And George and I have done a lot of research and a lot of engaged on a dialogue to make sure that we were bringing something forward that not only had value, but meant something to the potential customer. And I've really tried to focus on that. And it's really easy to get carried away with the technology and how fun and exciting and innovative this can be. But if it didn't solve the problem, I think that's been key for me all the way through. Stay focused on the problem.
I love that. And the one thing before we let you go, Fred, and I just wanted to really, really ask you, you talked about this conversation to get the language correct, so you're telling the story. How was that important? How did you and George do this? Was these internal conversations? Was it also being within conversation with clients and community?
Yes, to all the above.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time together, again, because we've got a really diverse but yet intersected backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
But largely it was with trusted connections.
Okay.
Who will become clients. I'm pretty convinced of that.
Great.
Because relying on them to tell us that we were valid in what we were saying or thinking was key.
That's awesome. Well, Fred, this is amazing. I hope you the best of luck on Ruby Loans. We're excited to see, this just as business owners, streamline, help us as well as the B2B2C type of view. But thank you for joining us on the Business Leadership Podcast.
My pleasure. It was great. Thanks, guys.
You are listening to the Business Leadership Podcast with Edwin Frondozo.